Hello students, in the last video we have completed 5th module of your syllabus. Now we are going to start with the 4th module, that is geometric objects and transformations. Now in computer graphics we had worked with multiple primitives like lines, polygons, etc. These primitives can be described using their length and an angle. These basic geometric objects are primitives and their relationship can be described using three geometric objects or fundamental elements known as scalars, points and vectors. When we consider these geometric objects individually, the most fundamental geometric object is the point. A point can be defined as it is a location in space. A point doesn't have a size or a shape. Then when we consider the second geometric object, it is a scalar. Scalars can be defined as these are objects that will obey a set of arithmetic rules. Then what are the examples of scalars? Examples of scalars are real numbers, complex numbers, etc. Then what are the operations these scalars will support? Those operations are addition and multiplication. I said scalars are objects that will obey a set of arithmetic rules. Then what are the rules these scalars will obey are? First rule is an associativity rule, where associativity rule can be defined as if we consider alpha, beta, gamma are scalars, then either we perform addition operation on alpha and beta first, or if we perform on beta and gamma first, it's one and the same. So we can write the associativity rule as alpha plus beta plus gamma equal to alpha plus beta plus gamma with a brackets on beta and gamma. Then the second rule, what the scalar will obey is a commutativity rule, and in that rule we can represent that as alpha plus beta equal to beta plus alpha. Either if we add beta to alpha or alpha to beta, we'll get the same result. Then next is every scalar will have an additive inverse and a multiplicative inverse. If we consider alpha is a scalar, then its additive inverse is minus alpha. When you add alpha and minus alpha, we'll get the result as 0. Again, if we consider alpha as a scalar, the multiplicative inverse for a scalar is alpha to the power minus 1. When we multiply alpha and alpha to the power minus 1, we'll get the result as 1. So additive inverse for a scalar alpha is minus alpha. Multiplicative inverse for a scalar alpha is alpha to the power minus 1. Then in the same way, the third geometric object, vector, can be defined as a vector is a quantity with direction and magnitude. Then the examples of vectors are velocity and force. Now, with respect to our geometric objects, a vector is nothing but a directed line segment. Now here we have considered a line segment where we have considered 2 points Q and P. A line segment joining Q and P can be called as a vector. So either we can use vector or a directed line segment synonymously because a directed line segment is also a vector. A line segment joining 2 points is called a vector. Then a vector doesn't have a fixed location in space. Vector will be having a magnitude and a direction, but it will not be having a specific location in space. So in the below diagram we have considered 3 line segments. The length of all these line segments are same and the direction of all these line segments are same. So we can say all these line segments are same because even though they are present in different locations, we'll not consider location when we represent a vector, because we'll say vector doesn't have a fixed location in space. If the direction and length or magnitude of the vectors is same, then we'll consider all those vectors are equal or same. So that is represented by this diagram. Then here we are considering some of the operations which are supported by vectors. The first operation we can perform on vector is multiplication of vector by a scalar. Here we have considered a vector called A, that is nothing but a line segment, and we are considering a scalar value 2. When we multiply a vector A with a scalar value 2, we are going to get a new vector or a new line segment. We'll call that line segment as B. So B will be represented as B equal to 2 into A. That means when we multiply a scalar value 2 to a vector A, then the length of the vector A is doubled. But we are not going to change the direction of a vector. The direction remains the same. When you multiply a scalar value with a vector corresponding to that, the length or magnitude of a line segment will vary. So initially we have considered a vector A. When we multiply a scalar value 2 to a vector A, then we got a new vector or a line segment with the magnitude 2 into A. That means its magnitude is doubled with the same direction. Then the next operation what we can perform on vectors is addition of two vectors. To add two vectors, we need to follow a rule, and that rule is nothing but head to tail rule. To perform addition of two vectors, here we are considering two vectors in a below diagram. The first vector is A and the second vector is C. Head to tail rule is nothing but the tail of C is added or joined to the head of the vector A. When here we have considered two vectors to perform addition. Those two vectors are A and C. Head to tail rule is nothing but we have joined the tail of C to the head of A. When we add these two vectors, we are going to get the third vector, which we represented as D. So D can be represented as D equal to A plus C. The vector D is a result of addition of two vectors, that is A and C. So this operation is known as addition of two vectors operation. Then the next one is, here we have considered two vectors. First vector is A and the second vector is E. The length of these two vectors or the magnitude of these two vectors is same, but the direction of these two vectors is exactly opposite. When we add these two vectors by using head to tail rule, then we will get a vector which is having a zero magnitude. Whenever I add these two vectors using head to tail rule, then both will cancel each other. So we'll get a vector with zero magnitude. That means when they cancel each other, that results in nothing. So we'll call that as a zero vector which doesn't have even a direction and which doesn't have even a magnitude. So such a vector is known as a zero vector. Then the next operation, and then this zero vector or this operation can be represented as E equal to minus A. Why we are writing it as minus A? Because the direction of E is exactly opposite to the direction of A. When we add vectors of this kind, we'll get the result as a zero vector which doesn't have a magnitude and a direction. Then the next operation what the vectors support is point vector addition. Here, to understand that, we have considered a point Q and a vector V. So when we draw a line segment or a vector V from the point Q, then the vector ends at some point, so we'll call that point as P. This is nothing but a point vector addition. Here we'll consider an initial point Q and a vector V. Here vector is nothing but a line segment. So when we draw this line segment from the point Q, this line segment ends at some point. So we'll call that resultant point as P. So we can represent this operation as P equal to Q plus V. That means point vector addition operation result is a new point. Which is that point? P. So whenever we draw a line segment from Q, the line segment ends at some point. That point is known as P. How we got P? By adding Q and vector V. So we can write that as P equal to Q plus V. Then this is nothing but some of the operations which are supported by vectors. Then coordinate free geometry. As I said, point is nothing but it is a location in space. If we consider any coordinate system, that means a x coordinate, y coordinate and a z coordinate, then we represent point in space. We'll write the corresponding coordinate values for each point. For example, here we are considering a simple object that is a rectangle where we are giving coordinate values for two of the vertices over here, where the bottom left vertex will be identified as 1, 1 and top right corner is identified as 3, 3 according to the x and y coordinate values. Here each point will be having a distance of 2 pixels or 2 units. Now in the second diagram we have removed the coordinate system. That means we are not considering even x-axis, y-axis, z-axis, nothing, but still the rectangle remains same and the distance between each points or each vertices remains the same. Now in this second diagram we are not going to represent any of the vertex with any coordinate values, but still we have 4 points here and a rectangle here and the distance between each point remains same. With this what we can understand is, without considering any coordinate system, even it is possible to represent objects or vertices in space. So to understand that, we have written a simple object over here, that is a rectangle. If you consider a coordinate system, for each vertex we'll specify the corresponding coordinate value, but if we don't use any coordinate system, vertex is nothing but it is just a location in space without having any specific coordinate values, but still the objects remain same with a related distance between other vertex. The distance between each vertices over here is 2 units or 2 pixels. Then in the previous slides, we have considered scalar points and vectors as geometric objects. Now when we consider the same objects in a mathematical point of view, then there are 3 abstract spaces which are defined to represent and manipulate these objects. Those are points, scalars and vectors. Then what are those abstract spaces which are defined to represent and manipulate these objects are? First one is vector space, second one is a Euclidean space, third one is a affine space. A space is nothing but it is a region or it is a boundary where the operations, the manipulations and the representation of these objects will be done. So the first space which we are going to consider is a vector space. In a vector space we are going to consider only 2 mathematical objects or geometric objects, those are scalars and vectors. In vector space we are not going to represent or manipulate points over here, so we are considering only other 2 objects, that is scalars and vectors. Then what are the operations we can perform in these vector spaces? It is a scalar vector multiplication that we have discussed before, and a vector vector addition. This also we have discussed using head to tail rule. These are the only 2 operations which are supported by vector space. Similar to that, the next space which we can use for these objects is Euclidean space. Euclidean space is an extension of a vector space. Here we'll add one more component to it, that is a size or a distance. This component is used to measure the length of a line segment. Even in Euclidean space also we are going to consider only 2 mathematical objects, that is scalars and vectors. Along with these 2 objects we'll add one more component. That component is size or a distance. This component is used to measure the length of a line segment. Then the third space which we are going to use is an affine space. This affine space is an extension of again a vector space. Here we are going to add even the third mathematical object, that is a point. So affine space consists of all 3 mathematical objects or geometric object. Those are scalars, points and vectors. Then what are the operations which can be performed in affine spaces? It is a vector point addition. This we have already discussed. When we add point and a vector, the result of this operation is again a new point. Then the second operation which is supported by affine space is point point subtraction. This operation we'll discuss in the later slide. Then when we consider these geometric objects in a computer science point of view, then we'll consider these objects, that is scalars, vectors and points, as abstract data types. So to declare these these objects, we can write the instruction as vector u comma v, point p comma q and a scalar a comma b. So when we consider these objects in a computer science point of view, to declare them we'll use a data type, a corresponding data type, that is vector, point and a scalar, where u and v are vectors, p and q are points and a and b are scalars. Then when we consider these abstract data types as a geometric abstract data types, then we'll use a Greek letters like alpha, beta and gamma to denote scalars, uppercase letters like P, Q and R to denote points, lowercase letters like U, V and W to denote vectors. If a magnitude of a vector V, magnitude is nothing but length of a vector V. If a length of a vector V is a real number, then it can be represented as modulus of V. Then the operation of a vector scalar multiplication. This operation we had discussed before. When we multiply scalar by a vector, corresponding to that, the length of a vector will get increased. Then that operation can be represented as modulus of alpha V equal to modulus alpha into modulus V, where alpha is a scalar and V is a vector. When we multiply scalar and a vector, we'll get a new vector with increased length. So then what will be the direction of the new vector is? The direction of the new vector is same as the previous vector if alpha value is positive. Otherwise, the direction will become reverse if the alpha value is negative. So when you multiply a vector with some value, for example 2, then its length will be doubled with the same direction. But if you multiply a vector with -2, then also its length will be doubled but in a negative direction. That is what this equation represents. Then, as I said, affine space supports one more operation, that is point-to-point subtraction. What is nothing but point-to-point subtraction is, to understand that, here we have considered 2 points, one is P, the other one is Q. So whenever we subtract P and Q, that means when we consider the difference between P and Q, we are going to get the result as vector, that is V. When we add Q, that is point, and a line segment V, we are going to get a new vertex, that is P. But when we subtract these 2 points, we are going to get the distance between those 2 points, that is nothing but a vector V. So V can be represented as P minus Q. So this operation is nothing but point-to-point subtraction. Then what is nothing but point to vector addition? This we already know. We can consider a point Q, and when we draw a line segment from Q, we will get a new point P. So P can be represented as Q plus V. That is nothing but point vector addition. Result of point vector addition will be a new point. Result of point to point subtraction is a vector. Then when we consider vector and vector addition by head to tail rule, then we can represent that using a diagram as shown below. Here we have U and V are the vectors, where tail of V is added to a head of U, so we'll get a new vector which will be represented as U plus V. When we consider the end points of a vector, then the end points of vector U will be represented as R and Q. So whenever we perform point-to-point subtraction, then we'll get a vector. So Q minus R, when we perform the subtraction between Q and R, we'll get a vector. We are naming that vector as Q minus R in the second diagram. In the same way, the end points of a vector V are represented as P and Q. Whenever we perform point-to-point subtraction between P and Q, we'll get a vector, and we are calling that vector as P minus Q. Whenever we add these two vectors, that is P minus Q and Q minus R, by using head to tail rule, then we are going to get a new vector, and we are calling that vector as P minus R. So by using that diagram, we can write the equation as P minus Q plus Q minus R equal to P minus R. This is nothing but vector to vector addition. Then lines. When we represent a line in the parametric form, then we can write the equation as P of alpha equal to P naught plus alpha into D. Then what is nothing but this P naught, alpha and D is? P naught is an arbitrary point, D is a vector, and alpha is a scalar value. Then to understand that, here we are considering a diagram where P naught is some initial point, D is a vector is nothing but a line segment, and alpha is a scalar value. So whenever we draw a line segment that is a vector d from a point p naught, we are going to get a new point. We are calling that point as p of alpha. Then what is the scalar value? The scalar value alpha is 0 at p naught. Whenever we increase the alpha value from 0 to some other value, then we are going to get a new point on the vector d. By increasing the value of alpha from 0 to some other value, then we are going to get a new points on the line segment or on the vector d. So by using this concept, we have written an equation p of alpha, that is some point on the vector which is obtained by starting the line segment from p naught. So p naught plus, how we got that? By giving some value to alpha on the vector d, so plus alpha d. So whenever the alpha value is 0 at p naught, we don't have any vector. Whenever we give alpha value greater than 0, then we'll get some point on this line segment or on the vector d, and we are considering some point on the line segment p of alpha. How we are going to define p of alpha? That is equal to p naught, that is starting from p naught, we are going to get different value for alpha on the vector d. So p naught plus alpha d. So this form of representation of a line is nothing but parametric form of a line. And whenever alpha is 0, we are at p naught. When we increase the value of alpha, we'll move through the direction of a vector d itself. So this is regarding representation of a lines using scalar, vector and a point.